Hi everyone, and welcome to my recap and final thoughts of the Diamine Inkvent 2025 calendar Teal Edition. And if you are watching this on the date of filming, the 7th of January, and you celebrate Happy Orthodox Christmas. So I have arranged before me my ink swatches, that the ink colors from favorite to the least favorite, and the ones that can't fit on this sketchbook are laid off to the side in the order I went through, like which one is really my favorite, how am I going to rank this. And some of them were, it just came down to, okay, maybe the ink is too light for me, as I complained about in some of the inks, but I do like it aesthetically, and maybe it would look different in a broad or a stub nib, or maybe it's just it's not necessarily anything wrong with it. I'm just not jiving with it personally, because I really don't think of pastel colors as a winter or a holiday type of ink. Now, number one, who could have guessed this would be any different? Celestial Skies. No, the day one ink remained my absolute favorite throughout the entire Inkvent. This is just so absolutely beautiful, and I will be doing the quick flip through of the notebook I kept things in, and as well as categorizing stuff by color family and property and such like that. I can't believe I'm so organized, but this is I'm 100% going to be getting a bottle of this. It's it really looks like Emerald of Chivor, only it doesn't look quite that way. This Celestial Skies leans a bit more blue than green, like Emerald of Chivor. And number two, Ruby Taffeta. This ink is really just so absolutely beautiful, a deep red with a magical gothic Christmas, gothic winter type of shimmer. This is also 100% going to be getting a full bottle of this. I love writing with it so much. It's just such a wonderful wonderful ink. And number three, Smoky Tobacco. I'm surprised by how much I like this, because scented inks are hit and miss for some people, but I was in love from the time I started writing with it. It's so beautiful, and I love the smell. It's a beautiful medium brown type of ink. Everything about it so perfectly evokes the feel and the scent and the look and the just everything about Smoky Tobacco. It's so lovely and beautiful. I cannot wait to get a full bottle of that. Number four, I'm sorry, I'm totally blurring for words. I'm forgetting to list the dates of the inks as I'm holding them up. What an idiotic stooge I am. So Ruby Taffeta was day number 16. Smoky Tobacco is day number 4. Number 4 ink for me was number 15, Frostbite. And there's been a little dust on the swatch cards. They've been sitting out for a while I put, all my thoughts and categorizations together. So the only reason I'm not ranking this is slightly higher, even though I, love blue, I love it more than red, is because there are so many, blues in this darker side of the spectrum, and plus shimmery blue. So it it does stand out really beautifully, but it's just I'm not saying it's not unique, but it's just there were three other colors that I did like more than Frostbite, because they are a little bit different, but this does really lovelily evoke the feeling and the look of Frostbite. Number 5, the day 25 ink, the big one, Myrrh the Merrier. I love this ink. It's so beautiful. Now, I'm a little bit disappointed on some of the Clairefontaine paper I mostly write with. It doesn't look quite as tealy and shimmery as it did on the day I filled it with the pen and did that writing sample. So I'm not sure what's going on there. It's just a paper quality or something like that, or maybe I didn't get enough shimmer into it when I inked up the Delta Duna piston filler. But I have seen some people on YouTube talking about there are things we can do, or at least they know how to do it, to kind of dilute the sheen so it's not 100% or not so strong and prominent. I'll get to that more when I'm going through lessons learned and such. Number 6 favorite is day number 6. Fur and Fog. This again is a really unique ink. It does something just a little bit different. It really does lovelily evoke the feeling of fur and fog, seeing a fir tree through the fog in the winter with ice crystals clinging to it. Number 7 was Nostalgia from day number 10. This again does something different than so many other inks, it's kind of like a brownish undercoat with the way it goes down, and then it dries up to a really beautiful, like, I don't even know how to describe it, like purpley, like bronzy, browny, like coppery kind of shimmer. It's a beautiful, beautiful ink. So, so evocative. I might possibly get a whole bottle of that. And so I count, this is day number 8 for my English secular birthday date. Number 18, Laurel. This ink has been performing so well for me. And I know some people were like, complaining about the extreme sheens, but I've found on all of the papers I have used it on thus far, the green is more prominent than the shimmer. So that's, something to keep in mind. It so much does depend upon the paper you're using. And I love it so much. I got really emotional when I saw this on my, birthday, particularly because like the name Laurel, and you could go watch that video, but if you want to know the details, but it's just like very, very personally meaningful name to me, and just the beautiful, lovely green. Day number 9 was day 11. Brr. This is a lovely shade of medium blue. This is a pigment shimmer ink, the first pigment shimmer they have done. It does really, really capture the feeling of brr, your like, face and your mouth are turning cold from the turning blue from the cold and the snow and the ice. And it's performing really well. It's just a beautiful all-round well-performing ink. Day number 10 was Carousel. Ink number 10 was day number 3, Carousel. This was the one that was unfortunately spoiled for me the night before by someone who was like, careless and apparently like living in a different time zone. I'm not going to like give information about who this person was. I don't like believe in publicly like embarrassing people or like giving out too many identifying details. I mean, I don't believe this person did this like, maliciously, like to like shove it in people's faces. Oh, I'm giving a spoiler. I'm ruining your whole like Inkvent day because I was so overeager and didn't like take into account I'm in a different time zone and just like throwing it out right onto Instagram. But like, yeah, it did kind of take the wind out of my sails that this was spoiled. I knew it was going to be red. This is a pigment ink. It's a little bit lighter when it writes, or at least on my papers. It seems to lean more towards like, reddish orange than true a bright red, but this is a really beautiful shade of red. We're doing it up to number 11, Antler, which was the penultimate day, Christmas Eve. It's a lovely shade of brown. It does write a little bit lighter than the swatch card is showing up, but again, so much does depend on the nib size and the paper. And I guess like if you write slower or you force the ink right up into the feed, it pools better and there's greater saturation, so it does show up closer to this kind of like brown. I'm sorry if the light is like glaring off of it like crazy, but anyway, just so much does depend on your pen, your paper, and your writing technique. But I'm really, really enjoying this ink. It's a surprise, something, completely different from what they've usually done. Day number, I keep saying day number instead of like number on my list favorite, 12 favorite ink was day number 2, Energy, which really reminds me of Deadly Nightshade, except for the fact that it's not a shimmer ink. And I've, done a fair bit of writing with this thus far, and it doesn't really like sheen as extremely as it does here on like most of the papers. It's like purple, and there's of course like some traces or whatever, but it looks more than just a little bit like, I'm totally fumbling for words like an idiot. I'm trying to say it looks more purple than extreme sheeny here, so much really does depend on it. And who could resist this beautiful kind of Halloweeny ink? And particularly for me, purple is my favorite color. The only reason I'm not putting it up like right at number 2, or right at number 1 or in my top 5 is because the sheen is, it's there. It's not like I'm only seeing purple when I write, but if this were just a straight standard purple type of ink, I would have put it, much higher. But again, there are some things you can do to like lessen the sheen. Day number, I keep saying day number, I'm such an idiot. Number 13 ink was day number 8, Unlucky December 8th. John Lennon's 45th death anniversary this past year. This was Dreamcatcher. This, again, really made me emotional to like unbox on that particular date. You know, like Dreamcatcher really like representing so much of what, you know, John was about. And I really wanted a dark ink on that day, you know, for the like the mournful like mood of the journal entry. And I wrote 2 entire pages with it. This is a really well-performing ink, and I really don't mind the extreme sheens, although I do agree with people who say like they're kind of starting to feel all the same. Yeah, they're not all 100% alike, even from within the same ink brand, but like you really don't need like every single extreme sheen unless you're a completist, because all you really need is like the standard blue that sheens like, you know, a purpley red, and a dark green that sheens purpley red, and maybe like if you're into other combos, like I guess like reddish orange grotto from last year's Inkvent, which sheens to kind of like a greeny gold or things like that. But you really don't need to have all the extreme sheens because they do have similar looks. Number 14 on my list was Chaos from day number 21. Now, when I've written with this, with like dip pens, the sheen really takes over and is a complete like gold brownish covering, and it got over everything. There was even a little like mishap. I don't know if it was like leaking out of the bottle or I touched something with inky fingers, but it got into the plastic grotto or whatever it was kept in when I was taking them in and out for doing my like, you know, wrap up notebook pages planning. But so I would have ranked this a bit higher if the sheen didn't take over everything. But when I was writing with just a regular fountain pen, I saw much more of the like winey purple color than the golden overcoat. And I really do like the name Chaos. It perfectly evokes the Greek mythology of chaos, the primordial deity, the first being who came into existence. He came out of the primordial void. And I love ancient Greek. I've been, you know, teaching myself ancient Greek since June. This would be, it's 12, 13, 14, 15. My 15th favorite ink is Molten Basalt from day number 13, lucky number 13. Again, I would have placed this maybe a little bit higher if the sheen weren't so extreme, because, well, I mean, extreme sheening inks, like sometimes they can be really disappointing. Oh, I was expecting this beautiful color it came out as, but oh no, it's drying to a color I would prefer not. I mean, or maybe you do like the color it shades to or sheens to, but it's just you would prefer inks stay what they look like when they go down. But this is very bold and distinctive, and the reason I'm like ranking it lower than the other two proper blue inks is because like who doesn't have at least a few like blue black inks like this? It is a little bit different than the typical blue black ink because of the sheen, but it's just like not like enough different for me personally to place it, you know, in the top 5 or 10 or whatever. And this is day I keep saying day number 16th favorite ink, Bittersweet. This was when I was starting to really make, you know, tough decisions. Which ink is my jam? Which do I like just a little bit more, just a little bit less than the others? And it just, for me, it came down to, okay, this is more like legible for me. It's more towards the dark side of the spectrum than the inks I started placing lower and lower. And I really do love this beautiful color of like lighter green. And day 9, did I say day 9? So okay, this was 12, 13, 14, 16. Okay, and now we're getting into the inks that we're finishing towards the bottom. Number 17 was Mittens from day 14. I do like this ink. It's really like a pretty sweet color, a lovely pink. Is this a pink? I mean, not a pink, a shimmer ink, or I think it's just a standard pigment ink. I'll have to go back and look, but I do think this is just a regular pigment ink. But again, like, it's not as pale and illegible as some of the later inks are, and I do like the color. So maybe if I put this in, I guess, like, you know, a dip pen or a very, very broad nib or a juicy stub or even a juicy medium and have just the right kind of paper, like maybe it would look a little bit different to me. But again, it's a lovely ink, just like not 100% my style. So number 18 is Gala from day 17. I love the purple. It's a beautiful like chroma shading ink, or maybe just looks chroma shady to me, but it does have that kind of feel to it. A little bit too light for my taste, but I do love purple, so you know, that's going there. And then just don't even bother to give like, oh, number 1, because I'm not number 10, number 18. I'm just not going to keep track of it. Just going to like show them as they come up. And then came day number 22, Pineapple Spritz. I had originally placed this a bit higher in my rankings, but it just came down to, okay, it's a really fun, happy, bright color, and this was a pigment chameleon, and I do love it's like more legible for a yellow, particularly because I had put it in a stub nib, and it's like, I love everything it's doing, but I would prefer an ink that's maybe just a tad bit darker, and if you are using a smaller size nib, it won't quite probably look as legible as it did for me in the stub nib, but again, like A+ for creativity. It's so beautiful. Maybe I would get a full bottle, but just, you know, I like my darker inks. And then came day 23, Let It Snow, which is a pigment shimmer ink. This is a really, really beautiful color. Again, like just a tad bit too light. It's always a sign like an ink, it's might have problems with legibility when you have to go over the letters like, you know, 2-3 times for it to, like, you know, pop out a little bit more. But again, this is a beautiful, lovely shimmer ink. And then came Ambiance from day 20, which started growing on me a little bit more. This is so beautiful. I do love it. It evokes the feeling of like candlelight ambiance with a orangey, it's like pinkish kind of, maybe like goldy look, but whatever chameleon particles are in it, or shimmer particles, it's like beautiful regardless. And this was the only orange we got of the calendar. Maybe this would be fun in a stub nib or just for painting, but again, it's did surprise me with how I did start like jiving with it just a little bit more when I began like writing with it for different things multiple times in the pages when I was putting everything together. Then came day number 12, Bubbly. I do love how this is like a goldy shimmer. This would be perfect for like holiday cards or like handwritten menu headings, but too light for me and, you know, practical applications, the type I like to do. But, you know, knock yourself out if you have like a broad or a stub nib. It is a really beautiful ink and does really capture the feeling of, you know, bubbly champagne. Then came Blush. We're getting down into, I think this is the bottom 3, yeah, from day number 7. Just too light for me, and it also felt kind of dry. When it comes to pinks, I far prefer the darker and the brighter pinks, and this is just like too light, too Barbie pink for me. I'm much more into Mittens from the pinks in this calendar. I'm sorry, the shadows are like crazy. Then second last, penultimate from the bottom, day 19, Overcast. Grays, they're just really not my thing, and I'm not even sure if this is supposed to be gray. It's more like a kind of like a bluish gray. It has nice chroma shading looking properties, but just I cannot see myself like wanting to get a full bottle of this or even like fill, you know, pens with it, other than to like use it up or maybe for arting. So again, like great for those of you guys who love like gray inks, just not my personal jam at all. And then last but not least, like I knew the whole time from the moment I unboxed, this was not going to be like an ink I liked. It was going to finish dead last, Marie Rose from day 5. It's just way too dry, way too light. When I looked up Marie Rose, I wanted to gag, and it does look like the Marie Rose sauce from the UK, like ketchup, mayonnaise, barf. Like mayonnaise makes me gag automatically. Sorry, not sorry. Lemon juice, Worcestershire sauce, maybe some salt and pepper, some spices. No, thank you. I'm really like not into this color. It was too dry, too light, like tan inks. And I do have some inks that are like, I guess, lighter browns towards this that are like much more well lubricated. And here's just a listing of all the inks from day 1 down to day 25. I wrote in parentheses what their specific properties were. It's a really lovely, like, you know, rainbow of colors, and like so there wouldn't be like a gap of space at the bottom. I filled it up with lucky number 13 smiley faces. It's a great collection, a lovely like varied color palette, although I did say so many times like pales and lights and pastels, not my personal jam, but, you know, A+ for them for doing like a wide variety of inks and just thinking outside of the box, not only doing like, you know, bright like reds and greens and like purples and like oranges and like, you know, whatever other colors evoke Christmas or the holiday season. Although I do like wish they had had like more purples, like proper purples, and they had had like maybe at least one more like brown and like another few oranges. I just thought that might have made it a little bit more like properly varied, but you know, you can't blame them for doing the inks they like suspect or have reason to believe will sell the best and be received the most popularly, received the best during the you know, the winter holiday season. So we had 5 pigment inks, 6 chameleons, 5 shimmer inks. These were shimmer alone, not like shimmer plus other stuff. 6 sheening inks, 5 standard inks. I'm surprised there were like so few, but you know, they like to like think outside the box and do fun, creative, like wacky stuff during the holiday season. Unlike Colorvent, which like no shade to them, I did love living vicariously through other people on YouTube doing the swatches, but Colorverse hasn't the past 2 Colorvent calendars, they haven't really seemed to be as like wild and adventurous as Diamine. Their, you know, color choices and special properties are like more conventional and restrained. So we had 3 extreme sheens, or at least as the way they were labeled. 2 possible chroma shaders. I wasn't sure if I should, you know, count them or not, but they did look chroma shady to me, although maybe some of the others were like chroma shaders and I just didn't like pick up on it. We had 1 scented ink, only 1, unfortunately. I do like scented inks. We had 1 shimmer and sheen, which was the final day, more the merrier. 1 pigment shimmer, and I'm writing obviously the inks by property in those particular pens, and I just, you know, had to choose which one to represent which color for me when there was more than one. So we had 1 pigment shimmer, 1 pigment chameleon, 3 standard pigments, and 11 total shimmers, which includes chameleon. They're a type of shimmer. They just have, I believe, 2 different types of particles, or they behave differently, you know, depending on the angle it's held at or the way the light strikes it. So the shimmer inks: Celestial Skies, Fur and Fog, Nostalgia, Brrr, Bubbly, Frostbite, Ruby Taffeta, Ambiance, Pineapple Spritz, Let It Snow, and Myrrh the Merrier. For sheening, we had Energy, Dreamcatcher, Molten Basalt, Laurel, Chaos, and More the Merrier. For chameleon, there was Fur and Fog, Nostalgia, Ruby Taffeta, Ambiance, Pineapple Spritz, Let It Snow. Pigment, Carousel, Brrr, Mittens, Pineapple Spritz, Antler. Standard, Marie Rose, Blush, Bittersweet, Gala or Gala, depending on your pronunciation, Overcast. Scented, only Smoky Tobacco. Shimmer and Sheen, Myrrh the Merrier. Standard pigment, Carousel, Mittens, Antler. Extreme Sheen, Dreamcatcher, Laurel, Chaos. Pigment Shimmer, Brrr. Pigment Chameleon, Pineapple Spritz. When it comes to color family, we had 5 blue, 3 green, 3 purple, 3 brown, 2 red, 2 teal, 2 pink, 1 orange, 1 tan, if that's what Marie Rose was intended as, 1 gold, 1 yellow, 1 gray, or blue-gray. And I do realize like some of these color categorizations are like, you know, personal towards like what you consider that color. So for example, some people might consider like certain of the inks, oh, this leans more towards turquoise than teal, or this looks more of a blue than a teal to me, or like gold and yellow. Oh, maybe they would have classified gold in the browns or in the like the tans with Marie Rose, or like, oh, this isn't really like red, it's more leaning, you know, orangey or like brownie. Or some people might have put Nostalgia in with the purples instead of with the browns like I did. So a lot of it can depend on your perspective, what you are used to thinking of in a certain color. And I do realize like sometimes there can also be like, you know, gray lines or fine lines between like what is like absolutely this color before it like crosses over into the next, you know, color category over. So whatever. Yeah, blue, we had Dreamcatcher, Brrr, Molten Basalt, Frostbite, and Let It Snow. Green, Fur and Fog, Bittersweet, Laurel. I'm surprised we only had 3 standard greens this year. Or not, well, not standard inks, but you know, like green inks, period. Purple, Energy, Gala, Chaos. The browns were Smoky Tobacco, Nostalgia, Antler, red, carousel, ruby taffeta, teal, celestial skies, myrrh the merrier, pink, blush and mittens, orange, ambiance, gold, bubbly, yellow, pineapple spritz, gray or blue, green, blue, gray. I feel so stupid. It, of course, like leaked over, bled into the page before it because I realized I made a mistake. I wrote blue, green twice, and I had to make the E-N into a Y. I was so stupid just thinking on autopilot. So gray was overcast. The yellow is pineapple spritz. I forgot if I said that already. Tan or light reddish brown. Marie Rose. Extreme sheen. Now, this goes beyond the ones they label as extreme sheen. I just put some others in because the way they performed on the swatch cards and in some of the writing, it did look like it's more than just a standard sheen. So Dreamcatcher goes down blue and sheen's red. Molten Basalt goes from blue to bronze. Laurel, green to reddish purple. But again, like all the extreme sheen inks, this one stays the most within the lines of its like standard like undercoating color instead of like being totally covered up. Chaos is a winey purple to green gold, and Energy goes from purple to green. Here I ranked my inks from my absolute favorite to my absolute least favorite at the bottom, going again in like the actual ink colors themselves. This was like a long, involved process because I had not inked every single ink into a pen to avoid like too much cleaning and like too many like partially filled pens I would have to, write dry, even if it's just a tiny bit. So like going back and forth with all the dip pens and cleaning the dip pens and taking the inks like back out of the doors and uncapping them. This was, like a lot of hard work just to get like everything written down. So my lessons learned and mistakes made from this year of Inkvent. Number one, that put the metadata in consistent order when I'm, like writing down what ink is what. Like for example, some days I would forget completely to write down the ink's property or what like day it was, or like, the year. Like, yeah, Laurel, I totally forgot about the year. And for pineapple spritz, I forgot to write the property. I had to squeeze it in up here. Like pigment, chameleon, and I believe like day number 12 also I forgot that was bubbly. I put shimmering. Oh yeah, I had to squeeze in day 12 down here because I was like constantly like forgetting sometimes to put everything in, and I wasn't always putting them in the exact same order. So that's something I will have to work on for next year. Don't foolishly forget fields like so. Diamine Inkvent, year, color edition, day, whatever, ink name, and the property in the parentheses. So try to make my mini swatches roughly the same size. Like I started out, I'm just like, painting off a little bit, and there was a huge snafu. That's something else I need to work on. Like practice at least a few weeks in advance with different types of swatching techniques. Don't just, think, it's going to be perfect. I'm going to try this the first time. And it just like came pouring right out of the syringe instead of like splatting out neatly without like so much shimmer pouring onto the page. And I just did a little paint off up here, and that continued on the second day with Energy, just painting off. And then starting on the third day, I did a full proper mini swatch up there. That was, I tried with the little plastic, pushing like plastic against the ink to create a kind of Rorschach thing, the way I've seen some other people doing on pen tube and ink tube. And I would just paint shapes, and I did more of the plastic pressing here because Marie Rose just like wasn't working for me very well, and I did shapes. Well, I'll do the full flip through at the end, but you know what I mean. So it went from small swatches up at the top to gradually like starting to take over more and more of the page, particularly if I like them or just like wanted to get it all off of the brush. So like be more consistent about this kind of thing next year. Save enough room on the swatch cards to write Diamine Inkvent year, day, X to avoid like tight squeezing, as compared to last year's. I thought, I have to get it in all at the bottom. And then I realized, yeah, I can write the name at the bottom, which is what I do all my swatch cards now, almost all of them, and then write the brand name at the top. And because this additionally is Inkvent, write the year and the day. And like sometimes I could fit all of that onto the the top. Are there any wins? No, I don't. I'll have to go look through, but it doesn't look like any of the ones from this year, everything was squeezed onto the top in one line. It's just yeah, it was I need to work on like spacing and where exactly everything is positioned on the swatch card. So that's another good thing to keep in mind for, practicing. So writing only with a dip pen doesn't always give the most accurate or fairest perception. Longer writing sessions in an actual pen will help. Like, I shouldn't have to tell people who've been around the block enough times in the pen and ink hobby why this is, because for whatever reason, the ink just seems to be a lot more like darker and saturated in the dip pen versus when you're like putting it in a fountain pen. And number 5, I might need a larger trim size notebook for writing samples. This is only an A5, which is roughly like 5.5 by 8.5 or so. And so like for the kind of writing samples I'd hoped to do every day, it's too small. Like, so quotes, like full song lyrics or just anything else like that. Several pages might be like better for the writing sample, or just maybe I'm so into it, or I'm writing an entire song and like I don't want to like cut it off at the end like I had to do for Murder the Merrier when I was like starting to write the lyrics of the Seventh Stranger, which is my favorite Duran Duran song. If you can go check out my video I did a while ago about my Durani fandom story, how I became a fan. Like, my 15th anniversary will be coming up this Valentine's Day. So anyway, several pages, not just the one, maybe more ideal. I need more practice with overhead filming. So like the ideal like zooming like perspective percentage, how to extend it, how far up or low down to do the arm placement of the tripod to avoid like hooking my left arm around it when I'm doing all this stuff, and the arm partly hanging off the desk, which led for some less than neat writing. Stay off of social media after 7 p.m. or so every night to avoid potentially seeing thoughtless spoilers, or mute accounts I know of a history of spoiling it, like this one person on YouTube. I just do subscribe to this person. Again, no shame, no naming or details, but like, I'm just wondering, like, why, particularly if you have a fairly popular, like, well-established channel, why are you still letting YouTube auto-generate thumbnails? Like, don't you think, particularly during like Inkvent and Colorvent season, people might stumble across that and get a rude like spoiler the night before because like I didn't realize, I might have to actually put effort into creating a specific thumbnail to hide the color they were like looking forward to seeing the next day. So again, like, just, I guess people need to be more careful and considerate of other people. Although, like, once Inkvent is over, of course, all bets are off. So, like, if this is a spoiler for you, I'm sorry, but you did have like the whole month to get through it if you were doing the traditional like Inkvent thing. Number 8, have enough cleaned pens ready to go and make sure nothing has residual ink left in the feed or a small amount in the converter. I like made that mistake with a couple of pens, didn't realize, yeah, I forgot to clean them, or I just left a tiny bit because like, I knew it would just like not evaporate, but just like be written dry with just a few more lines. Jiggle the tray, the plastic one in the box, to make opening the tabs easier, not like jutting up against solid plastic. Sometimes I would like try to push the tabs down and it was just like, there was like nothing like giving way because it had like shifted into the wrong place. So know where the indents are. Don't fill pens completely to avoid too many to get through, maybe just enough for a day or so of writing. Save larger fills for the favorite inks, which will get the most usage. Don't be too quick to immediately dismiss ink as not my style at all. It may become an unexpected sleeper favorite or grow on me with more usage, or a broad or stub nib may make it seem almost like a whole new ink. They may feel like a much better fit in another season. For example, pastels work more for spring than winter. Look into how to properly dilute extreme sheen inks to make base color more prominent. And I do use British spellings in my personal writing many times because I'm pretentious. It's a habit I picked up from the ladies in my estrogen Who list, as we called them back in the early 2000s for young female Who fans. Number 13, some sheens perform differently depending on the type of paper and pen or nib size. For example, Laurel looks mostly green instead of coming across as all shiny red. Here is day 1, Celestial Skies, which knocked me out of the ballpark on the very first day. It is so, so beautiful. It stayed my favorite throughout the entire 25 days. Just absolutely gorgeous, wet, well lubricated, like well performing ink, like A+ winner. And this mistake, it was kind of good in a way because like, look at all of that gorgeous like golden shimmer, just like reflecting like nothing but shimmer. And it's wonderful, wonderful. I had to put it in a broad nib, just like 1,000,000% beautiful. Day number 2 energy, the purple that turned out to be like really, really green. Although as you can see in the writing, it doesn't really look like it's like totally like, you know, taken over. So, you know, beautiful, wonderful ink. Day number 3 was Carousel, the first of the 5 pigment inks. It performed very well. Like, it was a nice surprise to see how it's like dry a little bit differently. The coating is, I guess, the coating is like drier, like not drier, I wouldn't say, but just it looks more like a coating instead of just, oh, it's a dried ink, because, like, you know, it has to be like waterproof. They put special properties in it. Really, really great time writing with this ink. There's still just a tiny little bit in a pen. Day number 4 was like smoky tobacco. Beautiful, beautiful ink. Like one of my like top favorites. This is my 3rd favorite. Like nothing like dethroned it from that position during the entire entire Inkvet. I will 100% be getting a full bottle of this like gorgeous, gorgeous beauty. Then the disappointment, the first disappointment, day 5. Like Marie Rose. Not jiving with this ink at all. Nothing against you if you like it, but it's just, look at this. It's so dry and so light. Like not my style at all. Day number 6, Fur and Fog. A beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ink. And I wrote a poem by Heinrich Heine in the original German about like a fir tree. Just, I might get a full bottle of this. It's so, so beautiful. Blush. Day 7. Lovely ink, just too dry and too light for me, and like pink isn't my jam, particularly this, you know, kind of pink. The teal, we had the Dream Catcher because it was John Lennon's yard-site death anniversary. I wrote a bunch of, you know, quotes from him on this. Again, like really, really very, very great choice for day number 8. I was so happy and emotional when I saw we did get a dark ink after all. That like blush unfortunately bled through a couple of pages. Rather than skip those pages, I just decided to like swatch around it. Day 9 was Bittersweet. I had to put this in a broad Twisby, and even then I had to go over most of the like letters like 2 or 3 times to get it to be a little bit darker. But again, it did end up like somewhat higher than I thought it would, because there were some inks that were like lighter than it that I didn't jam with quite as much as Bittersweet. Nostalgia. Day 10, like a beautiful, very unique, evocative ink. This is on my very, very like possible list for getting full bottles of. It performed like, you know, very well. Did some quotes about nostalgia. I forgot. I just like wrote mostly like what I thought about the inks at first, and I started. I wrote some quotes about. I wrote the Ronald Reagan quote about I'm sending Chesterfields to all my friends for Christmas. And I wrote the fir tree poem, and I wrote my thoughts about the blush, and I wrote a quote in ancient Greek about like, you know, blushing is the color of virtue, or modesty, shame, i.e. blushing is the color of virtue, from Diogenes. I wrote the John quotes and stuff about the ink for Bittersweet, and I wrote a little bit some quotes about nostalgia for Burr would have been my favorite writer, Alexander Isayevich Solzhenitsyn's 107th birthday. So naturally, I wrote some of my favorite quotes from him. I got one of these quotes only half right. I misremembered the entire quote, and then I did recite the full proper quote when I was like filming the last segment. Bubbly was day 12, beautiful gold ink, but again, just really not my style. Too light for me. It's not a good ink for my, you know, personal collection when I'm constantly going over the letters to make them pop out more. And we had a Molten Basalt, a very like dramatic, distinctive surprise of what seemed like a standard blue-black or blue-black ink drying up to a kind of like a brownish coppery sheen, really evoking the color of molten basalt. And I wrote some things about the symbolism of, you know, like molten basalt and fiery chaos and destruction, basalt from molten lava formation. Mittens from day number 14, a really beautiful sweet ink that painted a couple of mittens. I know they don't really look the best, but it's been like a while since I've been, you know, painting more than the swatch cards. Frostbite shimmer, and I wrote some quotes from the Divine Comedy. This was Inferno, Canto 23, talking about the frozen lake down at the bottom of hell. And this is like right when he's about to come across the infamous Count Ugolino. I have a whole video talking about Count Ugolino, like he's not biography and stuff, not just in the Commedia. Ruby Taffeta was day 16, a beautiful, beautiful, my second favorite. And I wrote more Dante quotes from Paradiso 33, when the word ruby is mentioned. Enter a journey within yourself, enter a mine of rubies, and bathe in the splendor of your own light. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a Rumi quote. That I wrote that in addition to the Dante quote, and I wrote about the symbolism of rubies. Gala day 17, I wrote some of the etymology of it down at the bottom, like a lovely ink, but again, too pale for me. Laurel day 18, because Stan Laurel, I wrote one of my favorite Stan quotes, not from a movie, just his thoughts about a lot of modern comedians who aren't really caring about what the audience wants to find funny, or what they might, relate with, what they need or want to hear. Just, oh, I'm talking and talking and talking to make myself feel better. And it's not about the audience. It's all about me. It's all about me, to quote the worst rapper alive, as the rap critic calls Lil Wayne a humorist. I do highly recommend the Rap Critics channel. Day 19 was overcast, beautiful chroma shading, but not my style at all. I just don't do grays. Day 20 was ambiance, like more of an art ink for me, because it's just, so light, but it is really, really beautiful. Day 21, chaos. I wrote about like chaos, like being formed from the void, and the etymology of chaos. A great evocative ink, but I would prefer the sheen not take over quite so much, but you can see this looks more like traditionally like the winey purple, instead of the gray, the goldy brown, like totally like taking over. So it so much depends on the paper. This was the Pineapple Spritz from day 22. Love this ink, and it's surprisingly legible for a yellow ink, although this was in a stub nib, so of course it would be a little bit darker. And I wrote about the etymology of the word pineapple. Then Let It Snow, Chameleon, and more of an art ink for me, so I just painted shapes after I quickly wrote my initial thoughts about the ink. Day 24, Antler, a beautiful, lovely surprise, and I wrote about the symbolism and of antlers, put it in my cave art pen, because what could be more symbolic of antlers and more rustic forms of art. And last but not least, more the merrier. This is so beautiful, and I started writing the lyrics to The Seventh Stranger. 100% love this ink. Thank you very much for watching all the way through to the end. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite inks from this Inkvent were, whether or not you have it yourself or you just lived vicariously through other people's swatching videos. Are there any you would most want to get a full bottle of? Are there any that you just don't jive with, like Marie Rose? I know I'm not alone. A lot of other people said they were kind of disappointed by the lightness, the no words for it, color made of mayonnaise and ketchup, or just how dry and light it was. Just not a happy surprise for many people, or just inks you were no real strong feelings about, basically putting in the middle. Just tell me your general thoughts about the inks. Did you think it was a good color balance, or you wanted to see more of the other colors besides blue? That seems to be a recurring pattern in a lot of these Inkvent calendars and Colorvent now as well, more blues than any other types of colors. What colors would you have preferred to see more of? I wanted to see maybe at least 3 oranges would have been good, or another few browns. But just let me know all your general thoughts about this year's Inkvent. Are you going to be getting it next year? So thanks again. Let me know all of your thoughts. Bye.